Hey, what's up? First off, I just wanted to say that I think what you're doing is very important, and I think um, your videos are so um, personal, and in letting it all out into the open, like you're doing, you're really. I know it's inspired me, and obviously it's inspired many other people as well. And keep it up, man. I think it's a great idea, and I was gonna say it's a great format, but you're almost getting rid of the whole classification of the format because you're just being a human being on a camera, and you're helping us all learn how to communicate again. Because I think a lot of us, myself included, have we have some issues with this today because we're always objectifying others and personalizing life, and life is a personal thing, and I think you made a distinction between studying philosophy and being a philosopher. And I read a lot of philosophy books. And what do I get from them? Well, mostly a bunch of definitions, nice words that I can repeat. And they're pretty useless unless I explain what they mean. And so whenever I try to talk about philosophy by referring to other philosophers, I don't think any communication actually takes place. I think it's more like dictation. It's more like a vocabulary lesson than a communication, because real communication involves emotion. And I think when you're going to study philosophy, it needs to be textual. You need to be writing. Otherwise, you're not communicating, because only a text um, externalizes these very definite, intricate thoughts and complex arguments into a stable form, so that another person can then look at that and study it and come to grasp what you're saying. If you try to explain verbally, a complex philosophy to someone that's never heard these terms before, that's never had any exposure to if they have no context, then you're not communicating anything. And this made me think about what do I really want to do with my life. I'm about to graduate with a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I plan on going to graduate school and either either I'll become a professor or some kind of psychotherapist. And I think the crucial difference between the two is being a philosophy professor would be teaching philosophy, studying philosophy, explaining other people's philosophy. Possibly, maybe I'll write a few of my own books, but generally, as a professor, my job is to take an excerpt from this book, an excerpt from that book, put them into this new book, and maybe add one new original thought, uh, if any at all. Um, Whereas, as a psychotherapist, all of a sudden this makes it more personal, and I'm helping people, and I have to be able to communicate on a direct personal level. Otherwise, I'm not helping anybody. And I think, if anything, having watching your videos, it's really pushing me towards the latter option, because trying to teach other people's writing, really, I mean, as much as I enjoy reading it personally and even talking about it, I think what's really driving me is the desire to connect with others, and it's difficult to do that when you're trying to argue about what a philosopher really meant. Another thing you said to JP was that everything is motivated by the self, and that we shouldn't feel guilty for wanting to make ourselves happy or better ourselves in some way. And I don't necessarily disagree, but I'm wondering exactly what do you mean when you say the self? Because I've heard in some of your other videos you talk about the body, mind, and spirit. And from those three perspectives, the self is something different. There's, obviously, your biological self, your body is you can distinguish that as separate from other bodies. So your biological self seems separate, but even there, we all have the same evolutionary history. We all have the same common ancestors, and so you're separate now, but your whole evolutionary history is you're coupled to not only the environment but to other people and to all these sexual relationships that, you're always talking about how sex is violent, and we should learn to not be so distracted by it. But at the same time, sex is this genetic. It puts this genetic squeeze on everything and forces all this complexity and chaos into the evolution of species that wouldn't have been there had sexual reproduction been asexual, had there not been man and woman, two opposites that have to come together to produce offspring. I don't think we would have evolved as fast as we have and be in the position that we are. Anyways, that's a tangent. Back to this, what is the self? So biologically, in one sense, right now I'm separate. In another sense, we have a whole history of connection, evolutionarily speaking. But now mentally, I think it becomes even harder to separate myself from yourself, because the mind is really composed of thoughts, right? And thoughts are generally verbal. And I learned to speak as a member of a community and with friends and with others. So my mind, your mind. There's no individual mind in each person's brain. If there's any mind at all, it's one mind. Otherwise, you wouldn't understand anything that I'm saying. And then spiritually, it's pretty self-evidently true that it's all one, right? At that level. Even to say one, it might be misleading. It's not even one, because one implies there's one thing, and implies there's an outside to that one thing. And spiritually speaking, there can't be any outside. It's just, you should just remain silent about it. But we can say, I guess, that there's no separation. We can make a negative statement about it. And you were talking about when you get hung up on some issue that you're embarrassed about, and you hold it in your head, and it builds up and clogs up your hard drive, as you were saying. You can really solve that just by uploading it into the commons, the social commons, and then all of a sudden you've let a weight off your chest, and everything becomes so much more relaxed inside, because you've let the floodgates open and release the pressure, so to speak. And that is so true. It is so true. Confessing is a cure, because then confessing, when it's accepted by the one you're confessing to, is a cure. And I think that just goes to show how important it is for all of us to be forgiving to others and open to others and non-judgmental.